Hey friends, welcome to the third video in my iPhone app tutorial series. I hope you have practiced well, gone through both the videos and learned the initial tricks of creating a iPhone app. We're going to continue our lesson forward. What I want to do first is give a quick recap of what we have done so far and then move into the lesson for today. All right, so go ahead and click on the Xcode icon from your toolbar. You know your project name is book tracker tutorial. Go ahead and click on it and that will open the Xcode interface for you. All right, uh, just to recap on things, let's go back to main storyboard. uh, in the last few lessons, what you have learned is how to create a view controller. We learned how to embed a navigation controller. We we also learned how to put text boxes, how to put constraints so that they appear equidistant on different screen forms. We have also learned that once we have the navigation controller on, there is a bar that comes on the top, and on that bar we place two buttons. We learned how to change the icons. We added a title on that, and then we have started our first step towards coding, which is going beyond the screen and trying to run or write some code which will run as the events are occurring while you run the application, right? So the first thing we did was, if you recall, we created a view controller with the name add book view controller. This was this file. And then we went back to the main storyboard and we associated this view controller to that name, which you can do it from the fourth icon from the top on the property sheet known as identity inspector. If you go there, you can see a class name. So what happens is that class is now associated with this view controller. So essentially whatever will happen here, the function can be executed based on the event that you have within this file. So that's one thing we learned. The other thing is that we went to split screen. Do that here again just to showcase to you. Click on the first area and click on the file, the view controller file, and the other area to showcase the view controller. What we have done is we have learned something known as association, both functions, which is this one you can see, and the outlet for the different text fields we created. You can see there are three text fields we created, and you can click on the option and drag the control back on the file to create an outlet. So these outlet kind of gives a handle to this text box. You can do various things to that. And then we have also we added one function that whenever you type something and want to reset everything, you can drag um, a function on a reset button, which is the name we have given, which is called whenever you're clicking on this button. And what we wanted to do is make the text of each of the text field empty. We got the handles here, we made it empty, and it was working last time when we ran it, right? So go ahead and run this program to see if the functions are still working. All right, so you know the first time it takes a little bit of time. So have some patience, that is going to build it. You can see that the screen is coming up. And soon you will have your application installed and the screen. So here it is, right? So what we did was we are entering a book name. Let's say The Last Scintilla, which is actually a book I wrote. So I'll give my name here, Shantanu Barua, and then I enter a genre. It's a fiction. Okay, and what we learned is if you click on this, it should empty everything. So learn now to see this connections are here. You can see those three connections. Hence you have an action, and this, when we click, this function is called. That's where we drawn the action on. Click on this and see that how these are all waiting empty. Great. So we're off to a great start, and this is just a quick refresher on what we did last time. Today we are going to get some more familiarity. It's like coding more on this, and I gave you some exercise. I don't know if you guys did it. Is when you click on this is for saving, right? So we'll learn the save later, how to persist the data. But right now we'll put some validation action. For example, if you're saving or if you're clicking it, you don't want your book name to be empty. or your author to be entry or a genre to be entry. Let's say, for example, you want all these three value. So what I want to do is now some validation exercise, which basically means if I click on this, if there is no book name, I should let the username that a book name cannot be blank, and they should enter something. Similarly, if you enter a book name but your author is blank, you'll say the author is blank. Similarly, if you say book and author both are there but genre is not entered, then it will prompt a genre is cannot be blank. And once you enter all the value, it satisfies all the condition, and then when we click on save, it should save. So let's go ahead and do some of those function today and see how it all comes together. Okay, so go ahead and stop the function. So what I want to do first is that, remember, everything is event driven. When do I want to call that action of validation? Whenever somebody is clicking on this button, right, which is a save button. So go ahead, I need a function on this similar to the reset function. This could be a validation function, and then subsequently we'll save it as well. So go ahead, and you know how to do it. Control and drag together, and as soon as you come to an open area, and this is very important, see where I'm pointing it. I'm pointing it inside the class. It's a function for the class, not inside the another function. It cannot go there. It is part of the class, so has to be within the class. And see the open, the close braces of the class, it has to be within that. But you can have it anywhere. You can have it here, you can have it here, you can have it here, but it has to be within the class. But for simplicity purpose, I'll put it towards the end before the curly braces of the class ends. Make sense? Release it, and as soon as you release, you get a dialog like this. It is an action. We learned that outlet is for drawing an outlet. We don't need an outlet in action here. That means somebody clicks, you do want to perform an action, you give it a name. Let's say I'll give it a name, validate button, right? You're going to validate and then save, but let's say the name is validate button. You can give any name. Typically, I told you the syntax, the first letter is small, the second letter of the word is large, capital, sorry. And I usually give the last name as the type of the UI object name, so it's very easy to understand when you're going through a code. Particularly very important when you have long code lines, and then looking at the name you can figure out. Okay, so I'll give the validate button name, and I say connect. Moment you say connect, now you see this dark box, and if you click on the see, it shows the shadow over here indicating it is connected to that. Similarly, if you want to click on this, it shows that it is connected to that, right? So that's what I was trying to show. All right, so once it is done, you have the connection. Let's get some screen space. So X out the second editor so you can get more space here. And now we are going to understand what we need to do. So understand, let's first think about the book name. If the book name is blank, then I need to do something. So there's a conditional statement that you need to write. So in programming, just like your mind thinks if and then, your program can also think in if and then. So there's a syntax, and these are proper syntax you have to write in a proper form. So I'm sure as you practice more, learn it. So the syntax for if then else condition is you write with if. You want to compare, and what you want to compare will be within this bracket. So we'll say that we want to compare that book name cannot be blank. You know how to get the book name. The name of the book will be in this field that you have created already. So you say book text field, it pops up automatically. You can select from there. The book text field may have many properties. If you recall it as color, font, size, shape, right? So you have to do a dot to find which one you want. You want the actual text which is stored in the book, which the user is entering. So you'll say text, same way that you have done in the reset button. You say text, and you'll say that if it is equals to blank. Okay, now whenever you're comparing, you have to use 2 equal to sign. Whenever you're assigning something, you have to use 1 equal to sign. See, in this one we are assigning a blank value to this, so you use 1 equal to sign. When you're comparing, you're trying to see that if the left hand side is equal to the right hand side, you have to use 2 equal to sign. So what you're saying is that if my book text field, which is the field name that you have for the book, and if you remember in the last session we form a connection. If it is equal to if the text of that is equal to blank, then you have to do something. And what you do is always within the curly braces, like any other function. Like you see, this function has curly braces, the class is curly braces, so has any if then else function. So we have said that if this is blank, you have to do something, right? Now, what is that something you need to do? You have to tell the user that it cannot be blank, right? And then you have to make the user aware that it cannot be blank. How do you make it aware, right? So let's first run it to showcase what I want to do before I start coding. So I'll run it again, and this time hopefully the building will happen, the launch will happen quickly. There you go. So right here, you see the enter book name. What I want to do is, let's say if it is blank, and if I click on this, what I want to do right now is doing nothing because I have not written any function here. Though it is coming here, it's doing nothing because I have not done any action here. So when I find that it is blank, I want to change this enter book name to book name cannot be blank. You know that this gray color text, if you recall from your first lesson, it is a placeholder text, right? Or I think it's in the second lesson, not in the first lesson. So whichever it is, right? So what we basically have done is we put a placeholder text. Just to refresh your memory, I'll go back to the main storyboard and select the, it's very contextual, right? So as soon as I select the book name text box and I go to the property screen, the fifth one, which is the attribute inspector, you see something known as placeholder. This is a property where I say enter book name. This at runtime, when you're running the application, you want to change to something else. You want to say, let's say book name cannot be blank. How do you do that? Let's go back to your add view controller file, which is a view controller file. You do it by accessing the property. You know that this is for the book text field. So you say book text field, you press a dot to get all the properties. Just like text was a property, placeholder is a property too. You say placeholder, you say equal to, because you're assigning this time, you're not comparing. So it will be 1 equal to, and within double quotes, you can say whatever you want to. I'll say book cannot be blank. Okay, so this I am mentioning within my double quotes. So anything that you mention in double quotes is a constant. It is known as a value. That value will appear there. So go ahead. So what you have done is you connected, you created a new function validate button by doing the drag and creating the action. And I think when you click on this, I want to first check if your book text field is equal to blank, then you have to say book cannot be blank. Go ahead and run it and see what happens. Okay, so right now it is blank because this is just a placeholder text. Click on this. Cool, it says book cannot be blank. Isn't that cool? Now, if I click again, say book cannot be blank. But how about I give a book name now? Let's say the last scintilla, the book I wrote. And if I click now, that message is not coming, but it is not saying author cannot be blank. Why? Because we have not written any code for that. So let's do it for author as for genre as well. How do you do that? So in life, you have this if, then you do this, else you do something else. This is what we are going to do here. If the book text field is blank, then you do this. If it is not, then I'll say else. Just like the colloquial language that you use. And you need to check for one more time, right? Else if, because there are two text field. So you can say else, and then you can again have a if in a similar way. This time you can say author text field, similar way, is equal to blank. So first what you'll do is, and then you put your open and close braces, right? You'll say, hey, is the book text field blank? Oh, I'm sorry. See, I did the mistake. Dot text. You need to compare with the text, the property of the, which is the value, right? You say, hey, is the book text field blank? First time it found blank, it will come here. If it is not finding blank, it will go to the next statement. Is the author blank? If it is blank, you have to do the same thing. I say author text field dot placeholder text equals to, I'll say author name cannot be blank, right? And then you can do another else if for your genre, or since you have only 3, you for the last one you don't have to say if, so you can save some writing, say else. So it basically means that for book it will come here, author will come here, anything which is not book and author will come here. Since you have only 3 text field, you can very safely write else because you know that the last one is nothing but a genre. Make sense? Otherwise you can also write else if the way I have written it. You can avoid that code piece because you know there are only 3 conditions. So we'll say genre text field dot placeholder equals to genre cannot be blank. So this is a conditional statement. It only goes here when it's required, when field is blank, it only goes here. When the author is blank, it only go here when the genre is blank, right? One at a time. Now let's try to run this and see how it behaves. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I first press this. It say book cannot be blank. Great. So let me enter a book name now. So it has gone here, not gone here anywhere, because this is the only condition is satisfied and it went out of the function. So I will type in a book name, let's say The Last Scintilla, and then again I press this. See, now it's saying author cannot be blank. What happened here? It came here. Is that book text field or text is empty? It is not, so it will jump to the next condition. Is the author field empty? It was, so it printed this. So now let's give the author name. In this case, I'll enter my name. Okay, and then I press this. Genre cannot be blank. Got it? Now if I enter genre as well, let's say genre is fiction. Now if you press, nothing happens because all these three conditions are not satisfied, and then it will come out of it and it will do it accordingly. Great. Now but still not saving, right? But before saving, I want to do a few things. Now let me make it all blank, and if I press on this, it say book cannot be blank, but my cursor is on genre. So if your book cannot be blank, it should be over here, right? That's how it should be when I'm pressing the save button, but somehow it's not going. Let's say if I'm an author, I click on this. I know author cannot be blank, but book cannot be blank is also coming. So it is, the cursor is not going over here, right? So how do you do that? That's another function of field. So what you want to do is whenever you're saying book cannot be blank, you want to bring the cursor back. So let me show it to you again. See, the cursor is nowhere. If I click on this, simply say book cannot be blank, but the keyboard, the cursor doesn't come over here. So I'm going to make sure that the cursor comes over there. So the way to do that is, whenever you say this is your body of function, right, where book text field is equal to blank. So when it is blank, you first say book cannot be blank. After that, what you want to say is that book text field dot is a function. It has a combination of attributes, properties, and function. So by default, Xcode provides a function known as become first responder. What it does is, when you do that, if you have many text field, it will become the first responder. That means that cursor will go over there and you can start typing. It's easy for the user. Otherwise, they have to think of an iPhone. You have to go and click on the text field or press your finger on that text and then start typing. I'm just avoiding that finger pressing so that you can save some time for the user and it's not irritating when you have a longer list, right? So let's try to do this. Run it. Do the same. The cursor is nowhere, but if the moment I click it, say book cannot be blank and the cursor comes right where it should be. So you save one click and then you can type. If you click again, I have to do the same thing with author. The cursor is still there on book. Do you see that? How do I do that? I make it again the same thing. When the author is done, if you are in this condition, make this the first responder, or if you're in this condition, you make genre the, oh sorry, not placeholder, the first responder. Okay, now you can try this out and you can enter, oh, I'm sorry, if I say this, the cursor is here. I say the last scintilla, and then I do this. See, now it has got author and the cursor is staying right there. So it's easy and you know where you need to type what. So you can say Shantanu Barua, that's me. And you save again. Genre is blank, it is coming back here, and you can give genre a name, fiction. If I delete all of those, let's say just to try it out, and I'm back on fiction, save on this, it goes back here. Why? Because this condition, this condition was satisfied. Cool. So I can give any name, class scintilla, and then I press this again. Works perfectly fine. Now you see that when I press, it came back to fiction because If none of the condition is satisfied, it will satisfy this condition and it will come over here. Since there was a name already, placeholder doesn't work and become first responder. So maybe it's a good practice to put a else if, and if I do that, then that will not happen. So you can say genre text field dot text equals to blank. In that case, now the cursor will not go over there because none of the condition will be satisfied. Okay, run this again and do this and give any name, give any name, give any name, save, nothing happens. But if you take, oh sorry, if you take the I out or the book name out and you click on this, it comes here, and if you click on this, now the cursor doesn't move back to fiction. Okay, very cool. Now what do you want to do now? Let me give you some more indication. You must have seen in your different application that when all the fields look the same, even if you make it blank and you type the book cannot be blank, it is sometimes important to draw the attention of the user. These are like looking UI look and feel functions. So what I want to do is, how about the field which is empty, either book or author or the genre, I make the border of the text field red, so it will be very distinct and user can very quickly pinpoint that there's something wrong with that. I'm sure you've seen that in many applications, right? Let's try to do that. So I want to play with some more properties just to get a feel of how you work with things, right? So go ahead and stop this. And you say that when the book text field is empty, I know I want to say book cannot be blank. I know I want to make it the responder. And I also want to make its border color different. So how do you do the border color? Take the element or the UI object that you want to change, which is a book text field, put a dot. To access the different parts of a UI object, there is a function known as layer. A layer is a variable. It's an animation layer that it can have access to your border color, thickness, and everything else. Use that layer. And then you put another dot to it, because layer can have many things. Can have a border, as I told you, the thickness of it and all. So what I want is, I first want to make the border width, the width of the border equals to, let's say, 1 pixel. Pixel is a small dot. You can make it 2, let's say, for example, just to show the thickness of it, right? So it will become a bit more thicker. Then I'll say book text field dot layer dot border color, right? That's what you want to change. Border color equals to, a way you give color is, there is a function within in the Xcode library known as UI color. Using UI color in the advanced lessons, I'll show you can give any color, like any color that you can think of, but systems give you certain colors by default. So we'll use some of the system colors. So when you say dot, like any other property access, how do you access property? Access property, I'm sorry. So you say UI color dot, red, gray, these are the default color which are already given. So I said red. But you have to do one more thing. You have to convert this to graphics color. Now this is a system function, because since you're going within the layer of the UI object takes some different kinds of color schemes. So don't worry too much about this now, but assume that whenever you are doing changes, not at the holistic object level but the underneath layers level, you need to use the CG color mode. So what you have done is, I've first taken the red color, and then dot, I'm saying convert this to a graphics color which the system can understand. So don't worry too much right now, do this. Right now I'm only doing for the book just to see if it works or not, and then see what happens. Let's run it. So if you recall, if the book name is blank, it will say book cannot be blank because this condition will satisfy. It will make it the first responder, and then it will make the width of the border to 2 and it will color it red. With me? Let's go ahead and click this. Do you see that? The width is a little larger, it is given everything, and it's become red. All right, and now there are a few problems we need to solve here. I'll tell you the problems later, but let's say you give a book name. As soon as you type book name, let's say La Scintilla, you don't want a red block to come, right? Moment you type, it should go away. How do you make it go away? We'll talk about that. That's an event again. That means when you're typing in this box, right? That's how you have to think about it, right? So, all right, we will come to that later. But at the same time, right now, if I'm in the author, if I'm typing here, um, and if I take the type out, it's not doing the same thing. So I think it's a repeat of the function. Let's first make sure that these two are written for both author and for genre. So can we do that? We will go ahead and we say author text field dot layer dot border width equals to 2, similar concept. Then we'll say author text field dot layer dot border color equals to UI color dot red dot CG color. Okay, and then I'll come here and I will say genre text field dot layer dot border width equals to 2. I'll say genre text field dot layer dot border color equals to UI color dot red dot CJ color. Now, at least what will happen is every time your field is empty, it will give a red color. But the problem still will remain that it won't go away as soon as you start typing, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. In fact, I want to give that as your homework, and I'll teach you that in the next exercise. But let's try to first see it. It will make it red, but it will not go away. As soon as I type, it should go away, right? So I will type, let's say, my book. Then I press this again. Oops, the author is not there, so it's doing the work. I'm making the author red, and I say ABC. I have typed something, it has still not gone away. I type, oops, the genre cannot be blank, and I type, but it still doesn't go away. Now, the exercise I want to give you, I'll give you some hint, and I'll leave you with that for today, so that you can do some exercise and come back. What I want to do is, as soon as you start typing, the border should be back to 0, and the width of the border should be 0, and the color should be defaulted to gray, which is what it is currently. So how do you do that? So just like we had a function, I'm giving you some hint for this, right? Click function. Text box is a many function. You know, when you type, when you stop typing, when you enter a text box, and so on and so forth. And I'll show that to you so that you get a reference of that, right? So go to your main storyboard. Click on any of the text field, let's say book 1. Go to your property bar and go to the last icon on the top, which is on a connection inspector. It is all the connection that you make back to your file. When you click on that, it tells you all these different events which are available to you. And also when editing change, when editing begin. So whenever these are happening, these are getting triggered, but none of these are connected. Why do we know it's not connected? Because all of those are blank. There's only one colored here, which shows that, remember, you created a book text field, which is an outlet, not an event. So the hint I have is you need to, for each of these text boxes, you have to drag as a function here, find out which function it will be. We can experiment that. I've shown you print. By printing, you can see when you type what happens. But when that happens, when you started typing, what you need to make is you have to make that layer as 0, border width as 0, and layer color as gray. And as soon as you do that, moment you type, it will go away. So I have given you enough hint, but I want to stop my tutorial class for today. Try that out. I'm hoping that you'll be able to solve it, and that is what we're going to do next. In our next class, we'll do that, and I'm going to introduce you in a very important function known as table view. In fact, if you learned a table view well, most of your application that you see, and I'll show you comparison of that as well in my next class, are based on table view. So we'll have an introduction to table view. We will go into little advance of that in the subsequent classes, but we'll show you table view. What is a function we'll do? Genre are typically a list of things that are already there, the fiction, non-fiction, historical fiction, so on and so forth. So why do you want the user to type? How about I give a table view where user can all the names are already mentioned and you can select whichever you want. That we are guiding the user to select what you have, right? Similar to what you have seen in certain apps. When you're entering a country, we know that in this world there are 191 countries. There's no point asking the user to enter a country, so they can drop it and they can select it from the drop down. Or if you're in the in a particular state, the city's names are already known, so you give a drop down where the user can pick it up. So that we'll do using if UI object on a stable view. Once we are done with that, once we are done with entering all this value, then we'll learn about saving, which will be in a class after that. So until then, keep coding. My advice to you will be twofold. uh, Keep doing the entire code time and again, delete everything, start from the scratch again, do the entire 3 episode again. The more you code, the more you learn. One hint I will leave you with: if you've read the book Tipping Point from Malcolm Gladwell, and one of the and Blink as well, one of the aspects that he speaks of, I think it's in the book Blink, where he talks about that, all of the uh, people who are famous, they're famous because they have put a lot of hard work. And typically they say anything that you put about 10,000 hours of work, you master in that subject. Bill Gates did 10,000 hours of coding before he did that. Obviously he was not aware of, so you have to drive it as a passion. Don't make it a half an hour exercise. The more you code scratch, put everything from the beginning, build from the scratch. The more time you give to this, the more actively you'll involve, more passionately you'll understand things better, and you will enjoy coding. So with that, I leave you for with your today's class. Hope you like it. Please do give me your comments in the comment box. If you have a question, if you're not clear about a concept, leave your thoughts behind in the comment box, and I will definitely come back. And I hope you subscribe to my channel so that you know exactly when I post a video, you'll get a reminder right away, and you can keep your learning process on. Thank you again for listening. Take care. Bye for now.